So when we started this project, we have been working in this region for last 5 years, like we are a 10, 12-year-old company. And when we started working in this particular sector for quite some time, where we created Hexalace, Tessalace, Never Cube. So these were all the projects that we've been very popular with. And the client actually wanted us to do something which was slightly from a different material. So we were looking at brick as a material, because in this particular area we were looking at brick as a material, and the facade was primarily facing towards the northwest side. So there is a lot of west sun which comes in the afternoon, and it comes really deep into the space, and it is pretty during the subtropics it is pretty hot here. So for that we wanted to look at possibilities of creating vertical fins and screens which are best suited for western facade. So the idea was to create more like a opening, like a building that is creating as an invitation. So it actually has two long fins that go up from the ground floor, which forms the main entrance. And the other side of the element was like a screen that was made with bricks which had metal lures, and each brick acts like an object of a metal fins, and that is stuck into it. And there's been care that has been taken to hold them up there, screwed into it, and it forms a very subtle screen that is being created. And this subtle screen actually is very interesting, that from outside it looks very opaque, but from inside it looks very transparent. So this kind of the dual character of this kind of the screen was very fascinating when we first took it, when the client actually thought that how will it look up, how will it come out. We were also experimenting that what could be the challenges, what if the brick falls, what could be the ways that we need to hold them up. So there were several other possibilities which we evaluated, and we did mock-ups, we did frames, metals, so which we created something which was something has a very subtle but a strong contrast with the surroundings, and it has this playful nature of being asymmetric, and it is diagonally asymmetric, these two particular elements that are there. And we created balconies which from the people inside, because the building is being used as offices, so it forms out like step out galleries from outside, where people can actually put in greenery, they can actually put in elements that can work around to green spaces that are available. And in the whole the experience was where it can used as outside areas, which can used as step out areas, galleries, smoking zones. At the same time it also adds like subtle green areas into the space, and it has very nice greenery that is coming up to the space. The overall, in a small building which was like barely 50 feet wide, the impact and the client response was pretty nice. How they like at the end they were pretty satisfied with the output of how the things have been done. And this building has been it was been successful for the client, because it's completely sold out there. It is occupied by the tenants and on all the floors, which is probably, I think, for any landlord who wants to build a building, would be the biggest thing, is that to have 100% occupancy on floors, and we have achieved this in this. So when we talk about this building in a normal building, so there's a lot of in a facade where we have glass. So there's so much of light that comes in, and this particular facade facing northwest has a lot of afternoon sun, and it moves much further into the space and creates a lot of heat. So to cut it off, the first thing what we did was to create horizontal projections which would double up as spaces which to step out. And after this, the idea was to, when we try to articulate it, so we try to work on elements which are like vertical fins which are tested for western facades. And these fins, not just being fins, are at the scale of a building. and it forms this vertical linear lines which has a subtle and light that gets into it and cuts off the major part of the hard part of the light and only lets in the soft light, and at the same time forms as an entrance portal to the main building. After that, looking at these elements, we try to balance them by creating screens of bricks. So these brick screens have an interesting element like all jalis. From outside, it creates a sense of opaqueness. From inside, it looks very transparent. So because of when we try to add these elements with those certain kind of elements to add more to it, which are exposed elements, together forms a composition which becomes very interesting, which has series of exposed brick elements, screens, and at the same time we have these long fins. So together the composition actually has a subtle balance of play of light from inside and outside, and also creates this nice linear balconies to look out into the landscape. At the same time, it also creates spaces where it can cut off the light in form of jalis, and overall it forms a very interesting visual interpretation. So then when we look at this facade, this is a northwest facade. So actually, like in a conventional building, the light would have been penetrated much deep into it, the afternoon sun. So these fins, which actually are at an angle, they cut off a lot of heat. So they cut off the heat in this particular direction. And even like these vertical fins here, though are flat, they cut off a lot of heat here. And once we have cut off the heat, at the same time this forms as a strong entrance. This forms as a strong element of interest for somebody to walk in. This forms also the clear views. And these screens at the same time do the same thing in a different way. Instead of cutting it, they diffuse it. They form screens and jalis which they diffuse the light, and it softens, and they form a very strong bold character from the outside and a very subtle element on the inside. So these juxtaposition of different fins creates a very subtle and an integrated and interesting facade, where at the same time it also has lot of greenery coming out of it, and it forms the small micro green spaces that can be walked into. When we talked about the client, what was the output was, and his initial intention was to actually have something that could be leased out fast, and it could actually help us in getting a passive income, and that was the whole purpose. And yes, it was achieved in less than 1 year of its completion and operation. And the building doesn't have much of maintenance, a low maintenance building where it's simple maintenance and cleaning that is being done. So overall, it's a simple building, but at the same time, even the small simple building can actually have a very strong impact, and at the same time fulfill the purpose of what it was built for.